is good now.
Streaming is good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Can everybody see my screen then?
Yes, and there are 7 people at the live stream inside already.
All right, sounds good. Let's go live here, and let's give out maybe 2 more minutes for the folks to join.
Not yet.
Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's give 1 minute, then we'll get started. Thanks everybody for joining early today. We do anticipate a lot more audience to join. Give us 1 minute.
It's time to come on out. There will be no sign from above. You'll only hear the knock, knock, knock of your own heart to signal. If you're afraid, come out. If you are awake, come out and level up. Begin again. Dynamite the down on the floor. Your body feels the top, top, top. Time as it hammers. Lord, we are sinners from a fire burning long ago. But here it is, the knock, knock, knock of your own heart that matters. If you are afraid, come. If you are alone, come forth now. Everybody here call anything you need. Call it your 2.0, your rebirth, whatever. So long as you can feel it all, so long as all your doors are flung wide. Call it your day number 1 and the rest of forever. If you're afraid, give. If you're alive, give more now. Everybody your faith die, bring your wonder. Yes, you are only one. No, it's not enough. But if you lift your eyes, I am your brother. And this is all we need. And this is where we start. This is the day we dream. This is the day
All right. We can begin the recording. So good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Kairos Sunday Counseling Session Series. Cindy, you begin the recording yet? Okay, we'll continue.
Recording in progress.
Okay, as many of you know, Kairos invites the world's best educators and inspiring students to share their knowledge and experiences, helping our middle schoolers and high schooler students to get college ready and walk the journey with them. Today, we have an honorable speaker, Vincent Zhou, who needs no introduction. But saying it makes me happy, so I'm just gonna say it. Vincent is a Team USA figure skater. He is a two-time Olympian and 2022 Olympic medalist. Vincent is also a two-time world medalist and the junior world champion. What makes me super proud is that Vincent is a student athlete from Palo Alto, my neighborhood in California. He was accepted to Brown University, Columbia University, UCLA, UCSD, and many others. So today we are going to walk the hero's journey with Vincent for a bit. How he, as the world's top athlete, faced his own challenges, especially how he strived the balance between studying and the training, and why he ultimately chose Brown University. So Vincent, welcome to our webinar. We have about 1,000 students and parents today and others. So of course, the world admires you for your talent, your achievements, your intellect, and even your good looks. So if I ask our audience, would you like to be Vincent? I'm sure I will get many yeses. But if I ask them, well, then you need to commit to fighting the battles after battles. Kind of like getting through one independence war and 2 civil wars and more, without knowing the end results 16 years ahead. And that is precisely what you committed to do. So I wonder if the answer will change. And let's find out. So Vincent, I would love for our audience to know what a day in Vincent's life is like. Vincent, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. It's really exciting to be here with Kairos, and thank you everyone for joining. We've got a really great talk, really great agenda lined up, so let's jump right in. So a day in my life. So when I was going through high school and studying and training at the same time, I would have to get up very, very early to start training. I would be on the ice by 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. And I would train for the first half of the day. I would spend 3 hours on the ice. It wouldn't all be in a row. I would have breaks in between where I would recover and hydrate and fuel. And I would even do live lessons, which are for online school. Sometimes you have live sessions with the teacher, and I would do those between sessions sometimes. And then after the first part of the day, which is training, I would study the entire second half of the day, all the way up until often 10 p.m., 11 p.m. Sometimes I would even be up past midnight because kids procrastinate in their work sometimes. And sometimes I wouldn't get enough sleep, and the next day would be very hard for training. But that's the life of a student athlete. And then after I graduated high school, and then when I was gapping before going to college, which is currently right now, my day would consist of on-ice training, off-ice training, recovery, and then that includes sleep and everything. And the point I want to make here is that as an elite athlete, your entire day, your entire life, every single decision you make, every single minute of your day revolves around optimizing your performance at the rink. So you don't just do whatever you want at home and then go into the rink and get on the ice and skate. When you're at home, what you eat, how exactly when you sleep, what you choose to focus on during your time off, just every little decision you make can affect your performance on the ice the next day. So to make it to the Olympics, you have to be 100% committed to what you do. And that doesn't just go for making the Olympics. That goes for being at the top of the top in anything, in academics, in your career, in life. You have to commit. You have to make decisions that are good for your job or your career or what you do. So that's a day in my life. And one more thing I want to say is that a lot of my days include lots of traveling. So when you travel, you have to be ready to get up at literally any hour of the day, be on a plane for any number of hours, go through complications, go through, jet lag and being fatigued. And then you may have to get to the competition venue and skate right after getting off the plane, after being on the plane for 12 hours, which I have done before. And so, everything you do before the flight, on the flight, I would take melatonin before getting on the flight. I would calculate exactly what I need to sleep to set my sleep schedule to deal with the jet lag the best. And then I would take melatonin to help myself sleep accordingly at any hour on the plane. And I would get into the rink. I would just be laser focused on doing my job and performing at the highest possible level. So it's a very intense lifestyle, and I've got a lot more to share about it. So let's move on to the next slide.
Right. Probably at the age of 8, very few people can imagine what does that mean, right? And of course, you have a dream, but at the age of 8, like, how did you make that commitment? So let's hear from you.
When I was growing up, I played a lot of sports because I had so much energy at home that my parents just couldn't contain. Like, I would be bouncing off the walls, fighting with my sister all the time. I would, be doing cartwheels in the backyard. They just couldn't control me. So they put me into a lot of sports to make me tired, so that when I get home, I would just fall right asleep. So I played soccer, basketball, swimming, t-ball, tennis, did lots of things. When I was 8 years old, I had 3 things left. I was skating, I was playing soccer, and I was playing piano. And on one afternoon in the office, my mom sat me down and she was like, "Vincent, we need to make a decision. You don't have time to commit to so many activities. You have to pick one thing. What do you pick?" And I sat there in the big spinny office chair and I spun around a few times. And then I looked at her and I said, "My heart is with skating." Verbatim. Like, at 8 years old, you typically don't really know what like being passionate about something means, but I knew like when I had to make that decision, I knew skating was what I wanted to do. So in our family, we don't do anything, pardon my French, but we don't do anything half-assed. We like to put in full effort, 100% commitment to whatever it is we decide to do. And so with skating in the Bay Area, the opportunities to improve and reach a national or even world level weren't optimal. So we looked around, we tried to listen to recommendations, and we did our research, and we ended up finding a coach in Southern California, a world-class coach named Tammy, who was willing to take me on. So during 4th grade, I had 8 trial periods lasting a week in Southern California with Tammy. So my mom and I made the 400+ mile commute, and we got there. We were living in like a really bad apartment with no hot water and no AC. My mom was sleeping on the ground in a mattress pad. I would eat canned food for breakfast every morning, and those were the sacrifices we made before I even committed to the dream. This was just a tryout period. I would write emails back to my class, and my teacher would read my emails to my classmates, and they would send me, encouraging messages back. And I didn't know it back then, but that was the start of something huge. After these 8 tryout periods, Tammy determined that she would take me on as a student, and over that period of time, my mom and I did some looking on education options, because when you're going to move 400 miles away from home to a place where academics is not as competitive as it is and high quality as it is in the Bay Area, you have to look for alternative options. And so I ended up switching to online school with Connections Academy, because if I was going to move away from home to train at an elite level, I could not afford to follow a regular school schedule. So I had to go to online school, which would allow me the flexibility to train at whatever hours of the day I needed to, and then study at whatever hours of the day I needed to. So just like this, my mom and I moved to Southern California. My dad and my sister, however, were still in the Bay Area. And so to try and maintain some sort of family life, my mom and I would commute back and forth 400 plus miles between Northern and Southern California every single week. So on Thursday or Friday afternoon, we would drive back. It's a 7-hour drive, and I know like every mile of the trip by heart. I know it like the back of my hand because we've driven it hundreds, thousands of times. And Sunday afternoon, my mom and I would drive back, and sometimes we would get in very late. And my mom is just so strong for being able to make that trip so many times, no matter how she's feeling. She just had an endless dedication to supporting my dream and trying to make it possible, no matter how hard the sacrifices were. Once we had a large snowstorm, and the drive took 22 hours. We pulled into a rest area at 3 a.m., slept 2 hours, and then continued driving as soon as the sun came up. And then I went into the rink and skated right after that, after sitting in a car for 22 hours. Because nothing gets in the way of training, nothing gets in the way of bettering yourself and trying to reach your dreams. So yeah, that's the journey that started from a couple words that I said in the spinning office chair at age 8.
Wow, that just bring me to tears as a parent. That dedication, that sacrifice, it's just nowhere to be found. So thanks for sharing, Vincent. Now, reaching to the top, that road is narrow and windy. And some of the pictures I saw from you and some of those letters you wrote is just astonishing. So I want you to tell the audience a little bit more. What was it like to struggle to every single battle along the way?
Struggling every single day is something that you're going to get used to if you want to be very successful at anything. Whether it be in your career, in school, in skating, you have to, in any sport, you have to overcome not only major challenges that may take weeks, months, years, a lifetime to overcome, but you also have to deal with the micro, the day-to-day things. Sometimes you're going to wake up and you just don't want to go into the rink to train. But when I felt like that, I realized the Olympics are there. They're going to happen whether I want to train or not. So whether I make the team or not, it's entirely up to me. And I've got to put in the effort if I want to see the results. So no matter how I was feeling, I went in, put my skates on, and got on the ice. And sometimes I would fall a lot, make a lot of mistakes because I wasn't feeling well. Sometimes my coaches would be angry at me. Often my mom would be angry at me because she left her job to support my skating and set a certain standard for me my whole life. And so if she's going to make those sacrifices, I can't squander that, the effort and time and resources she's given me and allowed me access to. So when you work hard, you're going to burn out, you're going to stress your mind, you're going to stress your body a lot. And honestly, you only learn this the hard way. At 9 years old, I had 3 stress fractures in my right foot. That was my first experience with major injury. But I was still young and I had that fire in my belly, and I was, I wasn't going to let that stop me. I got back on the ice and battled through recurring foot pain and won a national title the next year. But it doesn't always go like that. You don't always magically just win a national title. Sometimes competitions go terribly. In November of 2017, I had possibly one of the worst competitions of my life. And that was the final competition before Olympic qualifiers in January 2018. I wanted so badly to make the 2018 Olympic team, but it seemed impossible. And after that competition in November 2017 went bad, I thought it was over. And then I wrote some thoughts out, and you can see in the leftmost picture, and I posted that on my social media. Being open and honest about your bad experiences is difficult for some people, but for me, I feel like sharing my experiences like this is a great way to inspire people and let them know that even the people who are the most successful in their field, they go through the same sort of struggles and big failures and challenges that everyone else does. We don't we aren't allowed to make mistakes when people see us on TV, and that sort of pressure is just huge and very difficult to deal with. And we'll talk about some mental strategies to deal with those later. But as for other challenges, I mean, everyday training, you make mistakes all the time. You just have to accept that they're part of the learning curve. They're part of the process of bettering yourself. You just get up and you keep going. Doesn't matter if it hurts. Doesn't matter if you're tired. Doesn't matter if your muscles are going. It's good for you. It helps. If you fall, it helps you learn. What did I do wrong that I shouldn't repeat, so that I can do it better the next time, right? But the next struggle I'm going to talk about is probably my most recent one, and probably one of the worst ones in my whole life, which was testing positive for COVID at the recent Olympics in Beijing, the day before my individual event. I've talked so much already about how the Olympics inspired me every single day to just keep going and push harder. And I've dreamed of being at the Olympics, and I've dreamed of skating at the Olympics since I was a little boy, since my age was in the single digits. And I always, like, after the 2018 Olympics, I knew that as long as I kept my form up, I didn't even have to get better to necessarily make the 2022 team. But obviously I did, because I put in the work. But my point is that I thought that I would always have the Olympics with me. I always thought that I would just have this experience with me. And when I was there, I intended to just live it out to the fullest and enjoy every single moment. So when that positive test came in, I couldn't believe it. It was like something like the most important part of my identity, the biggest part of my life, something I'd worked for up until this time, 21 years, was just suddenly ripped away from me. And it was, I couldn't, there was no begging for mercy. There was no asking for a redo. There's no asking for a retest. There's no sending emails, seeing is there anything we can do. There's no saying, I'm sorry, can I try again? No, it's gone. It's like if a loved one dies all of a sudden, and you're just left to figure out the rest of your life without something you've loved your entire life. They sent me into a hotel room to quarantine alone in a small room for however long it took me to recover. And the first night, or the first morning I woke up, sometimes you wake up from a dream and you don't know where you are for a second. And that's kind of what I felt like when I woke up. I didn't exactly realize where I was. I was super confused. And as my eyes drifted from the ceiling towards my suitcases in the entryway, still untouched, that's when it hit me that this is my reality now. I talked to a lot of people. I spent 12 hours a day talking to people, just talking through things and processing my emotions. How do you even process something like that, right? I got a little bit better each day. Um, I had a lot of support around me. But then on the third day, the individual event, the free skate, which is the final event in the individual competition, happened, and I didn't watch, I couldn't, but I was following the results, and when the final results came in, and I knew that I could have medaled with how I was training. I'd been training very well going into the Olympics, and I knew that I could have won a medal. Not even having the opportunity, and realizing that just on the third day just broke me down to pieces, and all the progress I'd made in the previous 3 days just gone, and I was a mess again. Recovering from that after getting home from Beijing was a very difficult process. I mean, I don't have the words to describe it, but some days I just could not approach my skates at all. It was too painful, and like my mom would sit down next to me and cry with me and hold my hand, and she's never ever done that in my life. So, but I think after talking about such painful things for so long, I can't end it on a bad note. And coincidentally, that is how my story goes following the Olympics. I was destroyed after the Olympics. I could not train properly for the entire period after the Olympics leading up to the World Championships. I was in no mental state to. But something inside of me, that fire that had been burning since I said those words in the spinny office chair at age 8, got me to step foot on the plane to the World Championships, because I didn't want to live the rest of my life regretting that I didn't even try to go to Worlds. I didn't even try to compete there. And so, with 6 weeks of no training, I went to Worlds, and I won a medal. The medal that I should have had the opportunity to compete for at the Olympics, but was taken away from me. But I got it at Worlds. I don't know how. That's just proof that sometimes all it takes is just believing in yourself. That goes for starting any challenge in life, not just in skating. If you need to, if you don't feel like you can successfully do something, but you really, really want to, and you have it inside your heart, you desire it so badly, you give anything for it. Sometimes all it takes is to take that first step on the plane. For me, take the first step on the plane to France, to the World Championships. And after you make that hardest first step, you're free. You're free to do what you love, what you've always been capable of. So yeah, that's the story of my struggles.
Thank you so much, Vincent. Now let's talk a little bit of you coming onto the world stage, and at a very, very young age. How did you pull this off?
Okay, so deep breaths. So when I was young, I was extremely energetic. I was super competitive. I would always want to be the best at everything, and that showed in my skating. I was so ambitious. I always want to do the hardest stuff possible, and that pure drive and energy, and just almost reckless belief in myself allowed me to burst onto the scene and win 3 national titles in a row, jumping a level each year. And I set records for being the youngest to win national title at X level, and also setting records for highest score at X level. And after winning the junior national title in 2013, I was sent to my first international competition at just 12 years old. And in every sport, but in my experience, specifically in skating, when we're sent to international competitions, we get our Team USA jackets. So when we would visit rinks or we would go to nationals, we would always see the best skaters wearing their Team USA jackets. And it was like the sign of like, that's an elite skater. This guy is, or this girl is good. Like they, so when I got my Team USA jacket in the mail, I was just so excited. I wore it to the rink the next day and every single day after that because I was so proud of it. I went to my first international. I skated incredible and won by a big margin. And that was that. Then the following year, I had knee surgery. Being so competitive, so ambitious at a young age, trying to do so many difficult things, it takes a toll on your body. And I had been skating on a torn meniscus for 3 years without knowing it. When I went in for surgery, or after I came out of surgery, they told me that the tear in my meniscus was 1.7 centimeters long and it was too big to repair. So they just removed my meniscus. So now I don't have a lateral meniscus in my right knee. And you know what? Better off without it. Never wanted it anyway. But yeah, after 2 years out of competition due to the surgery and subsequent complications such as major depression, I rediscovered my fire, my passion for the sport. And in my first year back, I made it to the Junior Grand Prix final at 15 years old. The Junior Grand Prix final is a very exclusive elite competition where only the 6 best juniors in the world qualify for it based on results from previous international competitions that year. So when I was at the Junior Grand Prix final, I was there with all the best skaters in the world. They have the Senior Grand Prix final in the same location at the same time. So I got to see all of my idols, all the people I grew up competing with. I got to see them skate there, and that's when I really knew like I can make this Olympic dream a reality. Like I am on my way to being one of the best in the world, and I'm gonna stop at nothing to make it happen. That sort of almost like blind, like I said earlier, reckless motivation or like belief in myself has driven me so far. The next year, in 2017, I struggled through hip injuries that I had to have injections for. I struggled through various things, bad competitions, and I came into the World Junior Championships as a dark horse. Nobody thought I would win, and after a couple months of just training, keeping it kind of low key and just working really hard without letting anyone know what I was up to, I came out and I won. I set a world record by a big margin, and that was when I was like, okay, I've just won the Junior World Championships with an unbelievably high score for junior. I can make the Olympics next year. So the next year, in my first season as a senior internationally, I made the Olympic team. This was only possible because of a couple things, but I want to talk a little bit about how skating is scored. So we have a technical score and we have a component score, and the two combined creates your segment score, which is what you earn for your program, for your routine. The technical score comes from doing difficult jumps such as quads, jumps with 4 rotations in the air. And the component score is how the judges evaluate your skating skills, your maturity, your performance, your artistry. And First year seniors, because they're generally younger, less experienced, they're not as good skaters, they don't get high component scores. Even if they're good skaters and they deserve it, they don't get it. That's just the way the sport works. The only way to get enough points to make the team, I knew, would be for me to learn a bunch of super difficult jumps, quadruples, the hardest jumps possible in the sport, and put them all into my program. So my first year senior, I went into all my competitions trying 5 quads in the program. Only like one other person in the world was doing 5 quads in their programs at that time. And here I was, a fresh senior, trying it because I knew that's what it would take to make the team. This ties right into a recurring theme that I keep talking about, which is at all costs. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it happen. And when I made the team, it was just one of the greatest moments of my life. I was like jumping up and down, screaming. Everyone around me was jumping up and down, screaming. It was great. And then I went to the Olympics. I skated incredible, and I finished in the top 6, which is probably at least 10 places higher than anybody, including me, expected. And I was like, you know what? I went in as a first year senior, got 6 at the Olympics. I can medal next time around. In 4 years, I'm going to be unstoppable. And so in 2019, at the start of that fresh 4-year Olympic cycle, I set out to make that happen. Now in the 2019 season, a lot of things didn't go my way. That's just that's just how life goes. For some reason during that season, I just gained a lot of naysayers, people who just didn't think I was good. And I remember before Worlds, I had a major international competition called 4 Continents, and I medaled there. So I had to do a press conference, and during the press conference, I was asked, "What are your goals for the World Championships?" And I said, "Look, I know that it's unlikely, and I know that it'll be dependent on how other people perform, but I want to medal at the World Championships. That's my goal. I know I can do it if I just focus on myself and don't worry about what anyone else is doing, but I just focus on upping my game and doing the best I possibly can. I believe I can medal." And people laughed at me. They called me names. They said he can't do it. And I went to Worlds and I medaled. And that's the power of just believing in yourself, focusing. One of my favorite quotes is from the 1980 documentary, the documentary about the 1980 hockey team, U.S. Olympic hockey team that defeated the Soviets, who were undefeated for like 20 years prior to that. The coach during the game is just saying, play your game, Don't worry about what the other people are doing. Just focus on yourself, do the best you possibly can, control the variables you can control. The variables you can't control, forget them. That's how I won my first world medal. Fast forward 2 years at the 2021 World Championships. Everyone had been recovering from the pandemic. Skating was recovering from the pandemic. We were still, doing competitions in bubbles. Things were just really weird and different. And in that season, I was having a lot of boot problems. So that's one of the worst things that can happen to you, because even when you're doing all you can to control, being in peak physical condition, making your technique as good as possible, training as hard as you can, if your boots aren't working, there's not a lot you can do, especially when it's right before a major competition, because breaking in a new pair of boots takes a long time. And so you can't just switch to a new pair of skates and magically, have them work. So I went to the 2021 World Championships in a bad pair of skates and crumbled. I didn't even qualify for the free skate. I was 25th in the short program. So after being a 2018 Olympian and a world medalist and wanting so badly to be one of the best in the world and medal at the next Olympics, being 25th at Worlds in the season prior to the Olympics was not good. So I went into the 2022 season. Having come off of a terrible Worlds. I went right back to the drawing board, and I didn't even stop to cry or feel sorry for myself once. I immediately sat down with my coach, and we came up with a list. Here are the variables we need to get in control of. Here are the action steps we need to take to get things back on the right track. We came up with a list. A, we're going to do this. B, we're going to do this. C, we're going to do this. It went on and on and on. And we set about taking action. We went above and beyond to get everything in order. I started getting in shape super early in the season, and I went out there, and I had a great season. I skated more consistently and better than I ever had. And in October, towards the end of October, I won Skate America, and at that competition, I defeated Shoma Uno and Nathan Chen. Shoma is two-time Olympic medalist, and Nathan is the most dominant skater in history. He's the best skater in the world, and hadn't lost a single time in 18 competitions. And this isn't me talking down on my competitors, by the way. I have a great friendship with Nathan, and I respect him so much. But my point is that I was on track to winning an Olympic medal. I was making my dream a reality. I was bouncing. I was resilient. I was practicing resiliency, coming right back from a terrible Worlds the previous year. But as the story goes, I got COVID at 2022 Olympics, and then I once again I showed resiliency by bouncing back from one of the worst defeats of my life and won my 2022 world medal. And that's how I came to be a two-time Olympian and two-time world medalist. And the last world medal is one that I'm just infinitely proud of, and will carry with me for the rest of my life.
Thank you. Vincent, of course, your sheer determination and your relentless pursuit were very evident. And, Nike said it, just do it, right? You just kept doing it. So many of the audience, many of the high schoolers probably don't have that talent or that conviction, but everybody is going to be faced with a big decision that's coming at some point in life. Is that do I go to university? What kind of university? What kind of major? What kind of a future career? Right now, while you are on the way to the world's top athlete, when going through the journey, you also had to struggle balancing the study part, right? And tell us more how you handled that, right? On one hand, you're doing training 10 hours a day, but on the other hand, you are a student. You have to go through the journey like many others. So do share with us more.
Gladly. So we're going to switch gears now and talk a little bit about my academic journey now that we've covered my athletic journey. So being of Chinese descent, being Chinese American, and having parents who both went to Tsinghua, which is the best university in China, the academic standard in my family has always been very high. My mom always said to me that if you don't have good grades in school, you're not allowed to skate, because skating only takes you so far. It's not like a sport like basketball or football, where if you do well, you're successful, you earn multi-millions, and you're successful for life. You don't have to be educated. But skating doesn't pay well. Skating isn't government funded. Our federation is nonprofit, funding is very limited, and successful skaters often are very obscure for the rest of their life. So I had to make my own road to success through academics. So from the time I was young, I was in advanced programs. My mom had me doing sixth grade Singapore math workbooks when I was in second grade. I was trying to stay ahead of the curve. And obviously, when I switched to online school, I knew that it would be a big challenge because online school quality just generally is not as good as regular school quality, especially in the Bay Area, which is one of the most competitive academic areas in the world, honestly. So when I switched to online school, I was in fourth grade, but they had me do a placement test. And the placement test ended up allowing me to skip grades. So I skipped 3 grades in math and 1 grade in all other subjects. And the logic for skipping grades, because my mom knew that it would be a big challenge for me. But we did it for a couple of reasons. Number one, the school recommended it, obviously, based on the results of my entrance test. But secondly, I knew that if I skipped grades, I would be able to graduate a year or two early, and then I would be able to take the 2017 to 18 Olympic season off from school and just focus on skating entirely and use that extra time to commit fully to skating. And obviously that paid off because I made the 2018 Olympic team and had a great Olympics. And then the third thought was kind of a contingency plan. If skating doesn't work out, if I end up quitting skating at some point, maybe during my teenage years, well, I've already skipped grades, so I've kind of already learned the material a little bit ahead in online school. So if I have to go back to regular school in the Bay Area, I can go back to my normal grade and I'll already kind of know the material and I'll have an advantage. So that was the mindset for skipping grades. Because I was ahead, I took my SAT subject test at 13 and 14, or at 13, and I took my ACTs at 14. I moved to Colorado then, and ACT is what we take in Colorado. So that's what I did. I did tutoring for that. Obviously, I put in the extra effort. For English tutoring, I had a Stanford professor who would tutor me in a small group of Bay Area kids from 4th through 9th grade. And so, I talked about my mom driving from Northern to Southern California and back every single week. Well, I would do my tutoring in the evening right after getting off the long car ride. I would just get back home and start the tutoring right away. No time wasted. When I was training in Southern California, I did so much extra stuff to try and get ahead in school. For example, every Friday, every Friday after my 3 hours of training on the ice, we would drive 1.5 hours to Irvine, and then I would do my workout in like the 100-degree weather. I would do a long, hard workout. I'd be so tired, but then I would go right to tutoring right after that, math tutoring. I would be doing calculus tutoring, and it was like 2 or 3 hours long, and I would be like falling asleep while sitting next to the tutor. I remember like just falling like this and having to catch myself and hoping that the tutor didn't notice. And then we would be leaving the tutoring and SAT prep center as like the sun was setting. Because it was too late to drive back, we would stay overnight in the garage of a doctor's house. And then the next morning I would wake up and I would do SAT prep class the whole day, and then we would drive back. So I spent all the extra time I could afford to trying to prepare as close to an advanced student's route as I could. So I decided to try and apply for some colleges when I was 15 years old. I knew that I wouldn't be necessarily going then, but I wanted to kind of get the experience and see if I could get into anything with where I was at, because it was the end of junior year when I was 15. That's the time when people start doing that stuff. So, to meet the UC University of California requirements, I had to, so they didn't accept the science courses that my online school did. So I had to commute to a different school in heavy Southern California traffic on my training days to do hands-on labs for my biology, chemistry, and physics. There's a visual performing arts requirement for UCs. They also didn't accept the courses that my online school had that I could do. The only way I could do it was I could either take courses at my local college, or I could do, I could either do APs or I could do college level courses online. I didn't really like the APs that my online school offers, so I decided to take college level online courses. So I took a lot of extra steps during high school just to get credits, just to meet college requirements. Just to go above and beyond. A lot of skaters don't do that. Most skaters will just try to focus on skating and make it their whole life, because I mean, to be successful in a sport, that's generally what you have to do. So yeah. Can we move on to the next slide now? Perfect. So in 11th grade, I had just moved to Colorado, and where I moved, there was a pretty good regular school where an Olympian that I knew had gone there during her highly competitive years, and she had taken that route. So I decided to try it for myself. And part of the reason I decided to do 11th grade, which is the hardest and most taxing year of high school, in regular school, even though I knew that would make my skating harder, is because I wanted a complete high school experience. I didn't want to go into college having done online school for the last like 7 years and not know what's going on at all, because that's how it was. I didn't know what was going on at all. I didn't know how a period schedule worked. I hadn't been in a physical classroom since I was 8 years old. I didn't know how anything was happening. But what a lot of skaters will do is just, what a lot of people will do is just continue to stay on the easy route and keep and stay in online school. I knew if I stayed in online school, I could have gotten straight A's easily, and it would look way better in my transcript. But I decided to prioritize having the complete high school experience before going to college. And so I went to 11th grade at Cheyenne Mountain High School in Colorado Springs. This allowed me to adapt to different environments. So I did not know how to socialize at all. I was completely out of my element. I didn't know. I had never had to go to school and be in different classrooms for different subjects before. Yeah, it was just all about adapting and evolving with my environment. The first week of school, I was gone because I had an international competition. So I missed getting to know all my classmates. I missed the beginning of all the classes, which is sometimes the most important part. I came back so discombobulated, had no idea what was going on, but I just got right into it. I basically started off behind. Not even 2 weeks later, I was gone again for another international. This was just a common theme through the whole year. I missed finals review week because of the most important competition of my season. I came back from Europe, got back the night before my math final, and then went in at 6 a.m. the next morning to do my math final. I still succeeded that year academically, but it was just very difficult. But it taught me a lot of valuable lessons in terms of how to approach the difficult skating and school situation in college. So the last point is that before the school year even started in 11th grade, I went in, I found the teachers, I met with them, and I was like, look, here's my situation. We're gonna have to make some special arrangements, and I can come in for extra tutoring. Can you give me the work ahead? Can you give me extra material to study on my own? I met with all the teachers before the school year started, which is typically something you do in college, but not necessarily in high school. And I developed great relationships with my teachers. Some of them I still stay in regular contact with to this day. And cultivating relationships with my high school teachers kind of taught me a little bit about how to approach that same thing for college. Because when I went into Brown in 2019, I had to do the same thing, but luckily I had prior experience already.
Thanks so much, Vincent. 11th grade obviously was quite challenging for you, and but very immediately you were faced a big decision, right? Columbia University accepted you, and seemingly that has a prestige, and then Brown. Tell us how you made that decision when you were at a crossroad.
Sure. A couple things drew me to Brown. I think one of the biggest things was the open curriculum. So having done online school for so long, and that, you know, that allowing me to achieve what I did in skating, that really taught me the importance of having a flexible education setup. And I really liked what Brown's open curriculum had to offer. They have a math requirement and a writing requirement, and the rest of it is up to you to fulfill your selected concentration, which is what they call the major. So the open curriculum was one of the primary reasons I chose Brown University. The second thing was I did a lot of campus visits before making my decision, and I really liked Brown setting. It's in a really nice, a beautiful suburban environment. There's lots of open space. I like to have room to think. I feel when there's lots of people rushing around me trying to get to their thing, and more concerned with their 9 to 5 job or getting their class than having just a little more room to breathe, and talk to people. I felt that much more at Brown. Another thing is Brown has generally smaller class sizes, which allows you to communicate more closely with a professor, work more closely with a professor, and has a little more personalized learning experience. And the student, same thing, the student professor ratio is lower. And then obviously, I was still skating and competing at that time. So I had to consider the skating opportunities that were available to me. In New York, there's just where Columbia was, it would just be extremely difficult for me to skate and train at the same time. But at Brown, I had much more opportunities. I won't bore you to death with the specifics, but that was another reason I chose Brown. And then finally, this applies not just to college decisions, but also to your career choices, and what you do specifically within your job or your education or your sport or your instrument, whatever it is. Choosing what works better with yourself is more important than going somewhere or choosing something just because it's more famous or more well-known or ranked higher. And for me, Brown just fit me better. So yeah, that's that.
Thanks so much, Vincent, to give us a window into your life, not just as a world's top athlete, but as a student, and stumble and struggle and persevere through that. So I want you to leave our audience some takeaways here.
So over the course of my athletic and academic journey, I've learned so many things, gone through so many experiences, positive and negative. And through this entire journey, my family has always been behind me. I've said a few words about how dedicated my mom is and how strong she is, but also my dad for living in this split family situation and continuing to support me, not only me, but also my sister from behind the scenes this whole time, and always making an effort to reach out and be more present in my life. Because when he can't be here physically and when my schedule is difficult, it's hard to communicate. So I'm extremely grateful to both of my parents for supporting me and being behind me and allowing me to work towards my dream my whole life. Not only are my parents my family a huge part of the village, that the proverbial village. Also, my coaches, my psychologists, my trainers, my nutritionists, my mentors, my tutors, my peers, everyone around me has contributed to my Olympic journey and my academic journey in some way. I had I had people from U.S. figure skating, people who had uh, nothing to do with my college decisions. Um, they came with me to Brown to talk to like some directors and deans and help me, figure out what my situation at Brown was going to be like, and help ask for um, accommodations for my needs for training. Um, Making these sort of connections has been super important, and in in anything, in any career, connections are a huge part of your future success. And so um, having my team around me and having so many great people around me to help me, I can, well, they've allowed me to succeed as much as I have so far, but taking advantage of those connections will allow me to succeed even more in the future. um, One more thing, the growth mindset I've had my whole life. um, Basically, it can be summed up in a couple words. Whether your experience is positive or negative, there's always something to learn. That's the growth mindset. So if it's positive, what went right? What did I do leading up to this to prepare for it? Or what did I do in the moment that allowed me to succeed? And how can I repeat this for further success? If something went wrong, what did I do wrong that made the experience negative? How can I fix it? How can I do better next time? There's always something to learn and grow from. Um, a couple of mental techniques. This is a question I get a lot in interviews or from fans. Like they ask, like, when before competition, do you ever get nervous? And if you are, how do you deal with it? Absolutely, yes, I get nervous. I actually found myself, I get more nervous as my career goes on. The more experience I get, the more nervous I get. Um, that's because the higher level you get to, the more important the mental game is. Because at the top level, everyone is fit enough, everyone is strong enough, everyone is trained enough, everyone is talented, skilled, whatever enough to win a medal on that given day. So on said day, it comes down to who is the strongest mentally, who can perform under pressure in the moment. And a couple techniques I use, when I'm out on the ice before my program starts, before music starts, I like to visualize myself in my home rink, because I put in the work every single day going into my training rink to do my repetitions over and over and over again. I've done it successfully hundreds of times at home. So visualizing myself at home helps me kind of get into that sort of more confident and relaxed training posture. Another technique is reframing situations. If you're super nervous about having to perform optimally, and you guys can take this information and apply it to different things like performing in tests or performing in job interviews or whatever. So I like to think like, okay, it's not necessarily that I have to do everything correctly this time, but a better way to frame the situation is, this is a great opportunity. I prepared for this opportunity. I worked for this opportunity, and now I'm ready to take it on. And that gets you in a more relaxed and offensive approach. So the best performance happens when you're relaxed and offensive. When you're super nervous, you're super uptight, you're worried about something, you get all tightened up and defensive. Skating, not even skating, just like in general, being defensive will net you worse results than being offensive. And then, obviously you could tell from a lot of the stories and anecdotes I told, but commitment, sacrifice, and grit have been huge parts of my life. Committing to this skating journey when I was just 8 years old and I haven't achieved anything yet, making a huge move away from home when nobody had done that before. So there's another thing. When I moved from Northern to Southern California with my mom, nobody really did that yet. There were a lot of skaters in the Bay Area, a lot of Chinese American skaters just like myself, who wanted to, be successful at some sport or something extracurricular to put in their college applications. But nobody was willing to give up their life in the Bay Area, their quality education in the Bay Area to pursue that dream. So my mom and I took a leap of faith into the unknown, and we did that without being able to consult anyone. Be like, hey, you did this. How did it go for you? There was nobody else who did that at that point. So after I did it and was successful, a lot of people started doing it. So I consider my mom and I as sort of trendsetters in that regard. But being willing to make that sort of sacrifice and commitment is what sets you up for a similarly unusual level of success. If you're willing to take the risk, then you have a better chance of getting the unusual rewards. If you're not willing to take the risk, then you just settle for the common, $5 to $10 price. And then grit, being able to tough out the difficult times. My mom has taught me so much about grit. She's never said the word grit to me, but I see it in every single one of her decisions, every single sacrifice she's made, every single difficult night she's gone through for me, every single difficult decision she's made for me, all the difficult times we've gone through together. She truly showed me what grit is. She didn't tell me. Show, not tell. Great writing tip, by the way. And present day, where am I at now? So after having been to 2 Olympics and winning 2 world medals and having achieved, most of what I always dreamed of as a young boy in skating, I'm ready for the next chapter of my life. So a lot of people have been asking me, are you going to compete another 4 years? Are you going to go for the 2026 Olympics? Well, being a top level athlete requires full commitment to that. Being a top level student requires full commitment to that. It's very hard to live with a foot in each world. And so I didn't want to put off school for another 4 years and graduate college at 30. Because, as my mom always said to me, academics is always going to be number one. Skating only takes you so far. You have to have a successful career. So as of right now, I am planning to go to school full time, starting in the fall. I'll be going into Brown as a second semester freshman, and I'm just so excited for all the opportunities that are going to present themselves to me. I'm doing math tutoring right now. I'm reading up on different topics. I'm still skating a bit because I have a tour in Japan coming up, so I need to be able to perform at a high level for that. But I'm also staying fit, working out a lot. I don't want to gain a freshman 15. I want to stay in shape because that's part of me. Like a huge part of my identity is being a skater, being extremely athletic, and being able-bodied, and I'm proud of that. So I'm looking forward to being able to stay in shape while I'm at Brown, and that I think that's a great way for me to live a disciplined life, is to not just spend my spare time when I'm not studying, hanging out with friends, lounging around, doing random stuff, but being fit when you're not an athlete takes commitment and discipline too. And so I think that's going to be a great way for me to live a more regimented life. So I'm going to major in economics in the business track. I'm just so excited for the next chapter of my life. It's been an absolute journey, as you can tell. I've talked about happy experiences. I cried talking about my bad experiences, and I talked about the sacrifices I made academically to be able to go to Brown and to be able to get to this point. So yeah, I mean, one of my favorite quotes is, "Tomorrow is the first day of the rest of my life," and that's how I intend to live life.
Thank you, Vincent, for sharing these invaluable lessons and the mental techniques and the whole journey of developing your character, the courage, but every single step along the way and balancing as a student and an athlete. And thanks for wearing our t-shirt today. So
Yeah.
you have this Kairos t-shirt on you. Love it, love it. We do have a big surprising announcement, and Vincent will make it towards the end. But for the next 3 to 4 minutes, what I would do is we have some amazing questions from the audience, and I will allow Vincent to take a quick look on the chat window and get ready to answer some of them. And I'm going to spend the next 3 to 4 minutes to tell people who is Kairos, what do we do, how do we help you on your journey to your best fit college. May not be the most prestigious, but it will be the best fit college for you. So Kairos started in 2018 with some of the ex-Googlers and former admissions officers from Harvard, MIT, and so on and so forth. What we really wanted to do as our children are getting ready for college, we wanted to help them in this journey, not just what you do inside the classroom, your regular courses, your standard tests that Vincent talked quite extensively about, but your extracurricular activities, and especially summer, and what that speak about you, your passion, your conviction, your leadership, your creativity, your communication skills, that gives the entire holistic picture of your narrative, present that in front of the admissions officers. So how do we do it? We use a lot of big data. We use artificial intelligence to make recommendations based on analyzing your strengths, weakness, your dreams and hopes, and how do you compare to other college students, right? Of course, by the time you get to 11th, 12th grade, we're gonna help you to brainstorm your essays. Essays is who you say about who you are, but also letter recommendations. Vincent mentioned about cultivating that relationship with teachers, mentors, coaches early on, right? So that the third party will say who you are in their words, in their letter recommendations. But of course, building your activity list, building your resumes to make sure that you present yourself as a whole. Now, towards the end, when you think about selecting a college, a major, a future career path, Vincent talked about his decision-making into Brown, right? Don't just look at the prestige, but look at it. Is that experience of 4 or 5 years a good fit for you? What kind of curriculum, what kind of social setting, what kind of culture, what kind of surroundings, etc. So that's what Kairos does for our students. How do we do it? Number one, we build the world's largest knowledge repository. Anything application is in our database. Number two, we use artificial intelligence to provide real-time analysis, your strengths, your weakness, and from point A to B, every single step along the way, what you should be doing, how you should be doing it. And we're gonna also accompany you with hundreds of top educators. Some of them are former admissions officers, some of them are high school teachers, tutors, counselors. Of course, some of the inspiring college students will help you to learn about the college and about major as well. So number one, knowledge, we want to empower you, but knowledge alone is not enough, right? You have to do it, just do it. So number two, follow the GPS and practice, practice, practice. Number three, always remember you're not doing this alone. We're going to give you every single day support, just like we do Sunday counseling sessions. On Saturday, we conduct workshops. Monday through Friday, you're always online with our educators. You can chat with them, you can talk to them, you can call them, and they're gonna be walking the journey with you. Some of the additional resources we put together include summer internships with Fortune 500 top executives. And that is something that's scarce, the resources hard to come by. So some of our 2022 college graduates have achieved amazing results. Some of them are going to MIT, Caltech, CMU, Stanford, Johns Hopkins, etc. So do learn from these college students and allow them to share their experience, their journey with you. So they are reachable within Kairos platform. How Kairos works is that we have a student success manager you will be appointed to. Then they will connect you with all the subject matter experts. Some of them, like I said, are financial aid experts, former admissions officers, essay experts, college counselors, so on and so forth. Now, remember, you are going to present yourself as a holistic human being, not just a score, not just a performance, but your character, your skills. And of course, you need to do your job in planning and actually crossing the finish line and making sure you check all the task list on the application list. So now we do cater to 7th grader all the way to 12th grader. And when you are younger, 7th, 8th grader, you wanted to explore, you want to go broad. But by the time you get to 10, 11, 12, we want you to focus, we're going to go deep, and we want you to really shine in your application. And we do work with families for membership. So the membership includes one parent and one child. If you do buy multi-year, you will have a lot of savings. In average, a little over $1,000 on annual membership fee. And if you do have additional child, we will even make that even better for you. So with that, Vincent, are you ready for some questions? Let's go to our students who are also, Olivia Ma already sent me the questions way before this talk. She is a fan. She is also a figure skater in California, in Fremont. So here are the questions from Olivia, and I thought it was representative. What did you have to sacrifice to make time and resources for figure skating? And mainly, what do you decide to let go? You know, like you said, you have so many hobbies, right? And so many things that you might be interested, you want to invest more time and energy, but, you know, why figure skating? How do you have such a strong conviction?
I talked a little bit already about sacrifices that my family and I made for skating, but I would say more specifically, I sacrificed a normal I sacrificed a normal life in regular school. I sacrificed great academic opportunities. I sacrificed a proper social life. I sacrificed, normal like after school activities that people would just, kids would go and have fun. I sacrificed all material things. I don't think I, really owned anything worth over like $30 or $40 up until I was like maybe, aside from my phone, up until I was maybe 18 or 19. When I went to the 2018 Olympics, they give you a lot of free clothes and gear. I think my closet size doubled or tripled after that. Because when you go into training every day, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. It doesn't matter how you look. All that matters is that you perform. So, yeah. And then, besides my family and coaches, where do I get the most support in my skating journey? Well, I would say my psychologist, my sports psychologist, especially in my later years, played a huge part in my success, teaching me how to manage certain thoughts, teaching me how to manage different kinds of pressures, different things I might feel, helping me adapt to different circumstances. And then I want to mention my incredible fans who have been with me all these years, because I've talked so much about everyone else, but I haven't talked about my fans yet. I'm just so grateful for all the people who follow my skating journey and people who, watch my competitions and cheer me on. We as skaters and athletes and performers, we draw energy from our supporters. And so, the more enthusiastic your support is, the more enthusiasm we perform with. So thank you guys so much for being part of my journey.
Thanks, Vincent. Let's go pick some other questions from the chat window. Some of them are also very, very good, very representative. Hopefully, you've had a chance to look at some of them, but I am going to pick something from the chat window here. So now, one question from the audience is that, did it help you with the college application to say, you have a good SAT score, you have a good AP score, and then you have the skating achievements? What else maybe in your college application you thought that was, really caught the admission officer's attention?
Well, because standardized testing isn't required anymore, they don't consider it as heavily as before. But I believe that still having a good standardized test score and putting it on your application will influence the decision. It's not, like I said, it's not a necessary criteria, but if you do well on it, then great. All the better for you. I think for me, the best things in my application were how I talked about the lessons I learned from sports, the challenges I faced and overcame, and how dealing with those taught me valuable things that I can apply to future to school and to my career in the future. Just general life lessons you learn from being an athlete and living a difficult lifestyle where you have to sacrifice and commit and persevere to succeed. Showing quality, showing rare levels of grit and willingness to succeed at all costs. I definitely think that's something that was good that the admissions officers could see on my application through me telling my journey. As for other things, I would just say show that you're passionate. Make sure to read up on the requirements and go the extra mile. Make sure to fulfill all the stuff. Like I went above and beyond to meet certain requirements in high school. I talked about that earlier. I did community work. I did fundraising. I donated my competition winnings to cancer funds. I think stuff like that definitely does give your application a little boost. But I would say mainly just be yourself and try to be honest. If you talk yourself up a lot and sugarcoat your application and you end up getting in, well, good for you for getting in, but you're going to struggle a lot when you actually get there. I believe that honesty is always the best policy. And, because I'm so used to just being open and honest about things, it's not difficult for me anymore. I think my college applications were very real. They just reflected my raw character a lot. So I would say that's important.
All right, Vincent, so we have maybe a few more minutes left. I don't want to abuse your generosity here, but one question from Frank is that given your injury history, if you could redo your last 10 years of training, would you do anything differently?
That's a great question. I really regret having to have knee surgery at age 12 because, like I said, I won 3 national titles in a row leading up to that. I was on a roll. If I hadn't taken those 2 years off, I would have possibly medaled at the 2018 Olympics and maybe even won the 2022 Olympics, just based on how fast I progressed and how my progression curve went. So I would say if something's hurting, it's kind of hard. Like you'll probably you'll probably go to your local doctor or your trusted physician, and they'll try to tell you what's going on. For me, we went to a lot of Chinese doctors, and some Chinese doctors kind of do their typical like acupuncture or like traditional medicine stuff, but that's not always enough. You have to get a lot of different opinions and really figure out like, okay, this is actually what's going on. But at such a young age, my mom and I didn't have the experience, and so we thought it was just tendonitis, and I just kept pushing on every single day through the pain. I mean, I skated and competed with severe knee pain every single day for 3 years, and in the end, I had to get surgery for it. So I would say a valuable lesson I've learned and now I embody is listen to your body. If it's telling you something, then if it's telling you something, then it's really important, and you shouldn't ignore it any longer than you have to. And then for other injuries, I would say having self-control is important. So I talked about how super energetic as a child, I would always want to do harder things and do a ton of stuff and do the hardest stuff and do it the best. And that led to a lot of unnecessary stress in my body. I did a lot of unnecessary repetitions, and I often did too much. And sometimes that was at the instruction of my coaches. Sometimes my coaches pushed me to do too much, and that resulted in injuries. So I would say grow your voice as an athlete so that you can communicate with people around you, your coaches, your parents. Let them know when your body needs a break. And that's, if you just tell them out of the blue randomly, like, hey, something's hurting, they might not listen to you. But if you work on being responsible, and taking accountability for your own actions and being a little more independent, they'll start listening to you a little more. And then when you tell them, hey, my body needs a break, or hey, this is hurting, I think we should hold off on this move for this day, they're more likely to listen to you.
Yeah, thanks, Vincent. So we will take two more questions in the interest of time. Then I will ask Vincent to make an announcement what he is going to do next. So next question from I thought it was interesting. How did you restrain yourself from video games, TV shows, and other distractions as a child or a teenager? And that of course stems from your very strong self-control. But anything that you can share with our teenagers students here?
My mom would love to answer this question because she thinks I'm like a professional gamer. She says I'm phenomenal at video games. I don't. I so I think growing up, I had to live such a restricted lifestyle with just like 24/7 school and skating that I desperately needed some sort of outlet. And so I would always try to find workarounds to like my parents screen control software, and I would always try to like work around that to be able to play games and stuff, just because I had so much to do. I so much to do in terms of skating and school every day that I just felt like I desperately needed a break at all times. So this is actually something that I struggled with a lot. And in the end, what it ultimately comes down to is not your parents trying to control you. It comes down to how badly you want to succeed at something. If you want to succeed at something really badly, you're going to do whatever it takes to achieve that. And so for me, at some point you realize the next day of training may make the difference between me making the Olympic team or not. And if I want to make that Olympic team, I'm going to have to put in the effort starting now every single day. And so that's, the motivation from inside is really what makes the difference. If you try to restrain a wild dog from eating a piece of meat, like if you put a collar on them, they're still going to strain and struggle and try to get to the meat. It comes down to if the dog wants it or not. I think that was a pretty poor analogy, but you get what I'm trying to say. It comes from deep inside. You have to want it.
Yeah, Vincent, now we totally understand why so many fans just love you. You are truthful, you are honest, and it's okay to play video games, but just don't let it become an impediment to reaching your goal, right? Always have that force driving you forward. Thanks for sharing that. One last question. How did you make a decision to become a professional ice skater instead of playing it as a hobby? Many of the students love doing something, but they have a tough decision when they choose a major. That becomes automatically a hobby, whether it's a sports, a music, and so on and so forth, right? So
Yeah.
of course we're passionate about it. So tell us a little bit more how you made that decision.
Well, actually, professional isn't the right word. So professional is the term for athletes who like who tour around the world in shows and get paid for it. We're amateur, so Olympics is amateur competition. We don't get paid to skate. We pay to skate. um, but aside semantics aside, um, I think that what made me make that decision is just that. Well, part of it is that I truly love it, but from I think maybe from my mom's perspective, people who just try to follow the normal path and try to succeed in regular school, and then just have like some extracurriculars on the side, they don't stand out. I mean, there's thousands of Chinese American kids, um, who could have been just like me, going to school every day and maybe doing a small thing like piano or soccer on the side and applying to college. But there's when you have everybody trying to follow that same path, they don't really stand out to the admissions officers. But when you see, oh, for example, Vincent Zhou gave up that potentially very successful academic lifestyle to pursue skating, made the Olympics twice, and sacrificed so much to do that. That's unique, and that's something uh, very special and personal to be proud of, and something that might catch the eye of an admissions officer. So
Thanks, Vincent. And I want to thank our audience for staying with us for 90 minutes and more now. So we will have more content, more speakers and coming. So do stay connected with us through either WhatsApp group or WeChat group. And now let me give the floor to Vincent to make an announcement. So Vincent, take it away.
yeah, so to anyone who's still here, thank you so much for being with us this whole time and listening to me talk about my journey. As you guys know, there's lots of Ukrainian refugees, and those people need your help. I have lots of friends who are skaters, who were directly impacted by this. I talked to a friend who's Russian Ukrainian, and I won't mention his or her name, but I sat down with them over dinner, and they were like, because of the war, our family, like our family just doesn't have money or resources anymore, and I can't skate anymore. Um, I mean, the war is destroying people's careers, their lives, things they've worked for. It could be me. I might not be here giving this talk today if my life were affected in that way. So since this is an important issue, not just worldwide to many people, but to me personally, I'm really excited to be doing an auction to raise money for Ukrainian refugees with another one of my friends who's coincidentally also named Vincent. His name is Vincent Zhang, or Zhang if you want to be Chinese about it. But I will be auctioning some of my personal items, some of my Olympic gear, things that I treasure very much, and you could have a chance to win them. So stuff that I've worn at the Olympics, you could win them in the auction. The email is right there, vincentforcharity@gmail.com. So send us an email if you wanna stay connected. And the time and locations to be announced. So thank you guys so much for coming, and to anyone who does donate to our great cause, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vincent. Amazing, inspiring story. Audience, if you wanted to stay in touch, please connect with us. We're also going to help Vincent in whatever he does in the future. So thank you for your support. Everybody have a great evening, great Sunday, and we'll talk to you very soon. Thanks, Vincent. Take
Thank
good
you.
care. Okay, bye now.
Rebecca, bye-bye.